Back to the Culture Call on Praise 93.3 with L. Spencer Smith. Our desire is to reach and empower the community by discussing a cross-section of relevant topics from various perspectives that are essential to its growth and interpersonal connections. Be sure to save our call-in number, 205-752-4800. Be sure to install the free Praise 93.3 app so you can send L. Spencer Smith a message or topic idea. Search for WTSK in your app store.
This is the world premiere.
Great morning, great morning, great morning, precious people. You know what time it is. That's right. It's time for the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith, right here on Praise 93.3 FM. It is indeed the place where Tuscaloosa meets the world. And for the next 2 hours from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., we're going to be talking a little bit about everything from society to sports, education to economics. You know how we do it, from religion to relationship. As always, we are here to create a safe space. That's right, a safe space to have empowering, provocative, and sometimes controversial conversations. And guess what? You can call in and you can chat it up with me as we learn together right here on the Culture Call. Listen, if this is your first time listening in, I want to welcome you. That's right, to the greatest place during the week from 10 to 12 right here with us, this Culture Call family. We are close-knit, tight-knit, listen, and we are so very, very glad to have you join us on this morning. If you're a recurring and consistent listener, thank you so much, whether you're at your job or whether you're traveling or, no matter where you are, listen, thank you so much for letting everybody know about the Culture Call and the things that we say. Thank you so much for encouraging me. And when you see me, you let me know. Listen, I listen to you all the time. I am appreciative of all of that. Listen, we have a wonderful show for you today. I promise you it's going to be so very helpful. So very helpful. Listen, we've got a couple of things that we want to share with you. Number one, many of you have been saying, listen, Bishop, I'm missing the Culture Call and I'm at work or I'm doing this and not doing that. I'm in a meeting, and I miss it. Well, guess what? We have the Culture Call podcast on Apple Pod. Yeah, on Apple Podcasts. You can go to Apple and search out Culture Call, leave the article out, leave the out, Culture Call, and it's sponsored by Praise 93.3 FM, Town Square Media, and we are there. And you can go back and listen to all of our past broadcasts. Listen, and I am so super, super excited to be able to offer that to you because so many of you have been saying to me, hey, I really hate that I missed the show. Well, we've taken care of that as promised. And so you can go ahead and listen to all of that, all of the former shows that we've had, and we have had some doozies. Yeah, we have had some conversations here on the Culture Call, but you can go ahead and listen to them at your leisure now. Yeah. And so that's every show now, every show. If you missed it, no worries. You can go and download, I believe it's Apple Podcasts, and then search out Culture Call. Don't put the article, just say Culture Call. And there you'll find my mug sitting up there and all of the former shows that we've had. And you can pick and choose what you want to listen to. And that is for your convenience. Listen, see, that's how much I love y'all. Yeah, I told you we were going to get it done. Great, great, great. Listen, I want to encourage each and every one of you who have not done it already, both our new listeners and our consistent listeners, if you have not done so, is to go to your Apple App Store on your smart device, your Apple or your Android phone, or your iPad, or whatever that might be. Your Samsung, does not matter. And download Praise 93.3 FM. There you will find a free 99 app. That's right. Download it on your phone or your device, and you can hear us, guess where? All around the world, right? You don't have to stop working. You can put your earpods in or your earphones in, and you can listen to us while you're at work and, in your cubicle. Definitely don't want to disturb anybody, especially if you're in one of those places where, quiet is mandatory or whatever that might be. Yeah, you can listen to me from all around the world, from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania to Wilmington, Delaware, Atlanta, Georgia, Dallas, Texas, and most certainly right here in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and the surrounding areas. All of the surrounding areas, yes, we want you to listen in. Absolutely. Listen, I also want you to go ahead and email me your public service announcements or your events. Doesn't matter what you're having. If it's a seminar, a concert, a church service, a revival. Listen, I want to know what your church, your organization, your fraternity, your sorority, your choir is doing. Doesn't matter. Your business, send it to me at culturecall.praise@gmail.com. That's culturecall.praise@gmail.com. Yeah. And give me an opportunity to tell Lottie Dottie and everybody what's happening in your neck of the woods. Why? Because we do it better when we do it together. Listen, there's nothing like having an event and seeing faces in the place. Faces in the place. And, that makes you feel real good, right? We want to know that you are important to our community. And as always, listen, you can call in at 205-752-4800. That's 205-752-4800. And you can call into the show, or definitely on the app. There's a place where you can go ahead and send me a message, send me a chat, and I'll read it on the air. Let me know while we're doing what you're thinking about the conversations that we're having, whether it's up, whether it's down, with what you want me to talk about. Listen, I am so super open. And I don't offend easy. So you can tell me whatever you need to say in a respectful way. And, definitely I want to make sure that I make my listeners happy. So yes, I want to send a shout out to Brother Jay, who continuously blazes in the morning from 5 a.m. all the way up to 10, passing me this baton. Y'all, I wish you could see the baton when he passes it to me. It is blazing. It is on fire because he is the one, that serves the best in gospel music. So right here on Praise 93.3 FM. Do me a favor, sit back, relax, grab your coffee. You know what we like, Maxwell House or Starbucks. Y'all know what I love, caramel macchiato. If you are getting off of work, go ahead, get you some herbal tea. Chamomile will definitely work. Yeah, it will calm you down. Or if you're trying to get a little kick for your day, and you don't like sports drinks and all that kind of stuff, 5-hour energies and things, don't take that. All you got to do is get you some green tea. That's right. That healthy caffeine kick there. Or definitely you can get you some alkaline water and detox your body from those collard greens, chitlins, and like one of my members say, chitterlings. It's still chitlins, fried chicken, all that stuff, macaroni cheese. Get all that stuff out your system. It's a new week. You probably should be eating it anyhow. All those cakes and pies. Get it out your system. Get down to that cellular level and wake those cells up. Yeah. And let's get hydrated and get into the culture. Listen, we had a resplendent weekend this week at Fashion Night out in Paris. Shout out to my brother Rodney High and High Expectation that had the event in Tuscaloosa this weekend. I mean, it was so many people there, and I am telling you, it was just amazing to meet some of you and say, hey, I always listen to you, XYZ. And I'm telling you, I really appreciate what you're talking about when you talked about XYZ, and when you talked about this, and when you talked about dating, when you talked about women, you talked about men. Listen, we tried to talk a little bit about everything. And so I really, really appreciate you, but it was a wonderful event, nice, wonderful fashions, and shout out. Let's keep doing great things to push our community forward. Can we do that? That's right. Let's go and make sure that we create events that push our community forward. Listen, today, I want to talk about a very, very important subject, and shout out to my mother-in-law because my mother-in-law, we've never been mother-in-law, son-in-law and stuff, but my mother-in-law, shout out to her for talking to me about wanting to talk about this conversation. And I was going to do it at the end of the year, but I kind of zoomed it forward because, like I said, I listen to my, those who are listening to me when it comes to what they feel like we need to talk about. And she said, you know what I want you to talk about? I said, what? She said, I want you to talk about, making end of life decisions, preparing for end of life. And I was like, woo, that's a big one. And, I have a lot of friends who work in the insurance business. I have a lot of friends who work in the mortuary business. And again, I was going to plan this show a little later in the year, but I felt it felt impressed upon her, and her impression really touched me in a deep way. So I want to talk about for the next couple of days, preparing, making end of life decisions, the hard conversations that we really need to have in our community, because we do not, let me repeat this again. We do not do a good job talking about end of life decisions. All we do, unfortunately, is die. That's it. And then when we die, it leaves a mad scramble for our families and our friends and our church or whatever have you, to figure out exactly what we want. And, of course, when you're deceased, you're not there to make those decisions, and you can't tell them where this is, and you can't tell them where that is. You can't tell them where the will that you hid from yourself is, right? So they're making all of these random decisions, and coupled with that, they're in mourning, they're in grief. And so the mind and the emotions and the clarity is not always there when that time happens. And unfortunately, in our community, we don't know where funding is. We don't have insurance. We've lived lives, but we've never invested in the appropriate measures to be able to accommodate not just hospitalization with regards to insurance and those kind of medical care, but we've not even thought about, end of life services, which are quite costly, and the cost is going up. And so, we've got so many things that we need to discuss as a community. And, this conversation used to be one of a certain age. Like when you got in your middle ages, maybe in your 50s or your 60s, you started planning, or you started, having conversations with family and all those different kinds of things. But what I am finding is that, there is no age limit that we can put on this, right? And because of that, we need to move the tabooism, if I can say that, off of the conversation. Because why? It is a necessary conversation. When we think about this, as Black people, we believe, we sing songs. We sing songs about one day. We sing songs about leaving here. We sing songs. One of the most popular songs, that we sing is Walk Around Heaven All Day. And the hymn, I'll fly away. One glad morning when this life is over, I'll fly away. Right. And so we're always looking toward heavenward. That's just etched in our culture. That's etched in I don't even know, it may just even be etched in our bloodline because of all of our experiences here in America and how we deal with things from day to day. There is always, a spiritual aspiration to, the hereafter, that moment where we move from time to eternity. So we do a great job, let me just say our job. I don't want to say a great job. But we make it known in terms of our eternal security, our eternal aspirations and expectations. One day, I'm going where Jesus is. We shall wear a crown. We know the songs. We know the liturgies. I am the resurrection and the life. He that, believeth on me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. We know all of the fineries of the service, and all of that. And the truth of the matter is, we spend time thinking about, programming obituaries and gathering pictures and all of these things. I mean, we save them. And nobody on planet Earth gets an attitude about that funeral program like Black folks. Let me run that again, because y'all looking at me in the side eye, but that's the truth. Nobody gets an attitude about not getting the program like Black folks. I mean, I have seen some contentious things in my 27 years of pastoring, even before then, about getting programs. If you run out the program, or the ushers are in mortal danger when they're passing out the programs, and, folks, everybody don't get one. My goodness. And they, we're holding these for the family. What? I'm part of the family. Then you become a distant cousin, 15th cousin, whatever, where that, you can't even trace the DNA, nonetheless, we make preparations and we plan for all of that. But the reality is the time and the space before that, we don't do such a good job. We don't like to have conversations, and we don't like to prepare for that one day. We don't like to make sure, if I can say it like this, make sure that our business is straight. Now, first thing I want to say to everyone on this, who's listening to me this morning on the Culture Call is, first of all, two things. One, death is serious. It's very serious. It is very close to our hearts. We hold it very dear. That moment where our loved ones slip from time into wherever they're going next. Yeah. Into an eternal place that, we hold that very dear to our heart, right? Number two, death is not only sacred to us, but also here's what we don't consider, and we need to. Death is big business. Let me say it again. Death is big business, right? And one of the things that we think in our minds is that when death happens, that everyone is going to move in a level of sensitivity and a level of sympathy to understand whatever conditions we have to face and deal with. And one of the things that I understood from my parents, my grandparents, is that you got to have things in order. You've got to have things in order when that time comes, because that time will come. That if no matter what you believe, for those of us who are believers, for those of us who are Christian, if the Lord shall delay his coming, then all of us are going to have to give up this mortal body, which simply means that we're going to have to die. Yeah. And that's a reality. That is a reality. And the fact of the matter is that, I understand that, we have folks who want the body, because that's one of the big questions. Who gonna get the body? Right? Because we want to trust them with family people or family friends. I know everyone who the funeral homes who need our family needs to be entrusted to, or we have been entrusted to. Let me say it like that. Over the years, I know all of them, on my mother's side, on my father's side. I know my wife's people who they're entrust, all this and I know even now all these things. So we have people, funeral homes and funeral directors and those who can handle those services and provide those services. And now, no matter how congenial, no matter how empathetic they are, no matter how warm and how excellent they are in planning, I want to tell you that it is big business. It is big business. Now, even if you're kind of close to them and they're giving you a deal, you are not going to get a funeral for free. Let me just go ahead and tell you that right now, right? And, because it costs. There is a cost connected to that. And now, if you don't understand that prior to that, it can really send a wave of anxiety and panic in the family core, in the community, right? Because we believe in sending folks off in a certain kind of way. I mean, we are not a pine box people, right? That's not what we do, right? And we are recently, coming into ideas of cremation and all of that, but that's never been our norm. We believe in having a total spread, and those things are costly. But even before we get to there, there may be life challenges that you need to address and put it in a comprehensive plan of what you desire. Because none of us know when that time will come when we cannot speak for ourselves, when we can't talk for ourselves, when we're not in a space and a place to make our own life decisions. Do the people who you say you love know exactly what you would want? Do you know what they would not want? Do you know what plans they have made? Do you know where policies are? Do you know what arrangements that they have perhaps already taken care of? And so in the next couple of days, I'm going to bring, a dear friend of mine on to talk about these difficult matters, these very, very difficult matters that I know black folks, we don't like to talk about. Family, we don't like to talk about it because I get it. We believe in life and life abundantly. We believe we shall live and not die. Okay, but even the person that wrote that is dead. And I don't mean to be glib with it, but I want to be honest and very truthful with that. I want you to understand that is the reality that we deal with now. And that is what is going on. And we need to consider that. We need to consider what all of that looks like. Right. We need to begin to understand the facets of what would happen if I am no longer here to make that decision. That what will go on in my life if I am no longer here to be able to say, this is what I want. I don't want this, do you want a DNR? Who is the power of attorney? Because no matter how much brothers and sisters love each other, right? That the moment that you slip from time to eternity, if there is nothing spelled out, each and every one of them, and let's say you had 4 or 5 children, each and every one of them are going to think about what you would want. And sometimes they do not come into agreement. Sometimes, literally, they just look like, oh, okay, all right. No, well, mama would have wanted this. Daddy would have wanted it. No, he wouldn't have wanted it. He wanted to be buried in this powder blue tux. And no, he didn't. He left his gray suit. He wore that gray suit on the deacon board. He wanted to, and that can cause all of that. I have seen families literally have arguments in hospitals. I'm talking about in hospitals. They are fussing and going back and forth. Like, whoa, is this what we're doing today? This what we getting ready to do? And I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing how when we think about it, it's amazing how we don't understand that a lot of these things could have been taken care of if we started talking about end of life preparation and preparing for that one day. Where are the policies? I can clearly remember that one day my mom called my wife and I over, and she said, "Y'all come out and hang out. I'm gonna cook." I said, "Okay, something going on. She wants to cook," and I believe that she had just had another stent put in her heart, and so she wanted to, she was home and she wanted to meet with us. She wanted to cook, and man, she cooked that day. It was so good. That food was so good. And I was like, okay, and I'm bracing myself because I know. Y'all, I know something is on the way. I'm just trying to, bear up. I'm trying to say, okay, let's see where this is getting ready to go, because I know this is going somewhere. So nonetheless, my wife and I go over, and, at the end of the dinner, we all sitting down, and she says, she calls my wife, Patrice, let me come with me and let me show you something. And she said, Spencer, you sit there, you sit there. And you just sit in the couch, you look at home. I was like, okay, what is going on? What is going on? What is going on? And so she comes back to the room. She says, okay, here's what Patrice and I was just doing. I was showing her where all my wills, where the insurance is. I showed her where my lockbox is, XYZ. And immediately I was like, I don't want to hear it. And so she was like, oh, I know you don't want to hear it. Oh, I get all of that. I know you don't want to talk about this. She said, but nonetheless, you have to. You got to talk about this, because I don't want nothing to catch you off guard if anything should happen to me. She said, listen, I'm 76, 70, whatever years old, and I just had another stent in my heart. And so I don't want to take any chances that you don't know what's going on. You don't know. And she said, I'm not telling you because I know you're going to be so broke up you can't. I'm like, girl, you have absolutely no clue. She said, but somebody has to know. Somebody has to know where everything is. Somebody has to know what to do. Somebody has to know what to, and it was that, I calmed down. My wife's like, just calm down. She said, I'm not intending to go anywhere. And I think it was like 6 years ago. She said, I'm not intending to go anywhere, but if I do, and that is the key culture call that we want to talk about today. But if I do, you all will not be in a frenzy trying to figure out what I wanted. You all will not be in a frenzy of trying to figure out what my last wishes are and where things are, because here they are. I've spelled them out. Now, fortunately, my not only did my wife know, but my baby brother knew as well, because he was the initial person, everything she would tell. He knew that. That's kind of his wheelhouse. And so, she made all of these particular things, all of this XYZ, ABC, she already told me who she wanted to go to. She already told me how much to spend, and everything. I was like, oh, goodness gracious. And I can just remember the last few days that she had of living, and we just had conversations. She told me how she wanted to be dressed. She told me what she wanted. She wanted to be changed, and she wanted to be this. She told me who to call. She told me who not to call. She said, if some XYZ and I can't communicate, I do not want to be resuscitated. Let me go ahead on. And we're sitting in the hospital, and I'm like bawling, right? Because that was a hard decision, y'all. I'm the man of faith and power. Yeah, but now I'm talking to my mother about these things, and I'm like, yo, what are we doing? And she was just making sure that I had all of the information. She said, well, Patrice knows where everything is. Kurt knows where everything is, and blah, blah, blah. And then she just kind of spoke some other words to me, preparing this, telling me what she wants to see done with her ministries and her leadership at church. She just laid it all out so that there was nothing that we could grieve and mourn and the business be taken care of. Let me say this, that most people cannot do that because we do not know how to have the very difficult conversations we need to have in terms of end of life processing. We want to live so much and so long that, we don't, and again, that because everything begins to cost a lot. There's a convergence of people. She told me who she wanted in the house. She told me what she wanted. She said, listen, I don't want anybody gathering over here. Take them to your house. She said, here's who I want to have this, X, Y. She was explicit in what she wanted. And so when that time came, although it was a heavy time, it was a very sad time. It was an amazingly painful time. One thing we did not have to worry about is her end of life. When the doctor came and asked my brothers and I and said, hey, this might be the situation. Do you want to resuscitate? At first we had said, yes, do whatever. Cause that's our mother. And then we talked about it. We went in the room and said, no, that's not what she wanted. And all three of us agreed because we knew that that's not what she wanted. We went back to him and said, hey, if this XYZ happens, let her go ahead and slip away. We are not going to do that. And the doctor looked at us and said, you will be surprised how many people don't make the right decision. He said, because that will cause her more trauma. And I said, oh, absolutely not. We were like, no, what you ain't going to do is cause my mama no trauma. But one of the things I appreciate in that moment is that she had made end of life decisions that helped us, that kept us together, that helped move it fluently. We had to move from Alabama to South Carolina because that's where she wanted to be. She wanted to be buried with my dad. So we had to do all of that. And she had spelled it out. She knew we knew who to contact, everything. Are you in that position? Is your family in that position? Do you need to begin to think about that mindset? Because it is a reality. Don't turn this broadcast off because I am trying to help you. Absolutely. This is something that we must think about. These end of life conversation and the very difficult decisions that we will have to make when, not if, but when that time comes. Are we prepared? Have you prepared those who you love? Yes. Time is filled with swift transition. None on earth unmoved can stand. Absolutely. You know the hymns, but have you put it down in paper? Is there is there someone that knows where it is? We need to have this conversation, Culture Call family, and I think this is a good time to do so. Listen, this is yours truly, L. Spencer Smith, right here on Praise 93.3 FM. We've got a wonderful day of discussion planned. End of life decisions. Let's go ahead and make the hard decisions, the hard moment, have the hard talk right now. Listen, I need y'all to keep it right here. It's going to be amazing today. Don't miss it.
This is the world premiere.
And family, we are back right here on the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith, Praise 93.3 FM. We are having a wonderful day already, having a very, very provocative conversation. That's right. A very provocative conversation. I know it's a hard conversation. Talking about end of life preparations and what we will do and what we are doing or what we have done to prepare ourselves for the end of life for our families and our friends. Do you know exactly what you will do? Do you know what that looks like? Yeah, and I think that's very important for us to have that particular conversation. Why? Because if we do not, we leave things up to chance. And I am one of those people that do not like that. If you know anything about me, I'm telling you, it is a conversation that is very difficult to have. And, you know, I've sat with families who have done that. I've sat with my own family. And yeah, it's not one of those things. It's not one of those conversations that you just want to have. It's not one of those things that you just sit around just chatting about. You know, and eating collard greens and fried chicken. That's not no. I get it. I understand how difficult those conversations can be. However, I want to at least start, you know, us pulling down that wall of taboo, pulling down that wall of fear, pulling down that wall of, I don't want to talk about this because I can't envision, you know, mama going through this, daddy going through this. I get it. And I totally understand. However, we need to understand that if we don't have these conversations, what will happen? I mean, what is the measure of what would happen if we do not have those particular conversations and saying, this is what I want done. This is what needs to happen. I don't want y'all to worry about X, Y, Z. Here's where I want to go. And bring everybody. Don't just put one person. If you're going to do one person, you're going to have to let everyone. That's the one that I made executor over my affairs. I've given them power of attorney to make all of my end of life decisions. But what you do is you let everybody know. Let all your children know. You know, everybody that's close who will need to make that decision. If you don't have a spouse or someone who is next in charge, you know, I think that is very important. That even when my father passed away, my mom was still here, and he passed away. You know, we came and we not allowed, but we listened to her and told her, you know, asked her what did she want to do? What were the conversations that they had? And she laid it all out, was, you know, exactly like he wanted it. And we just executed what she said he wanted. Yeah, because they had that kind of conversation with each other. And so what I'm going to challenge us with today, Culture Call, is to not fear the inevitable. Let me say that again. That I don't want us to fear the inevitable. That guess what? One day it is going to happen. One day we will have to deal with the very context and concept of someone passing away. And we know that. And so we gotta release the angst around it. We've got to. If we gotta go through it, we might as well embrace the entire process, right? And if we don't embrace the entire process, what would happen if you don't know? What all possibly could be the result of you not having very important conversations concerning this matter? And, you know, when I was looking up and researching this, you know, the whole idea and the concept of death and funeralization and all of that evokes some kind of anxiety in all of us. It causes various fears and concerns to be aroused in our family and certain individuals, you know. And here are some of those fears about we don't like to talk about it. One of the fears that it is that fear of mortality, that we feel that talking about the end of life decisions forces us to confront our own mortality. Yeah, and that can be unsettling and uncomfortable. Again, every day, words of affirmation. I will live and I will not die. I am here. I'm purposeful. We say all these positive affirmations, and, you know, we make all these plans and we make all these projections. We've got a future. We've got bucket lists and all these different kinds of things that we want to accomplish. And so having these end of life conversations causes us to fear for our own lives, because we've been taught in our minds to talk about it, to have a discussion, and even to prepare for it will hasten it, right? It will speed it up. It will make things happen quicker. Right? And I get that. I totally understand that connotation, that concept of thinking, but that's not true. It is just like you prepare, anything else, prepare for anything else. It's a conversation that takes out the unknown. It removes the unknown because the frustration is in the unknown. Yeah. The lack of preparation is the thing that causes families to rip apart. Because guess what? You no longer have any say. I will no longer have any say. And we are, our end results are, our ceremonies and all these different kinds of things are left up to people who are crying, who are maybe embittered, who are still trying to accept, may not have a good relationship with each other. And so we're going to leave that to people, that's in that state, can't find insurance policies. Who going to pay for it? I mean, it's just, listen, it's reality. And so that's one of the fears. The second fear is if I talk about it, it's going to burden my loved ones. It's going to burden my children, going to burden my spouse. But, sometimes we worry about discussing the end of life things because it can be, the conversation is extremely difficult, especially when we got to make difficult decisions and put it and ratify it in some kind of writing, in some kind of document. So we'll all know and be on one accord if and when that time comes. So that can be very difficult, Now, here's another one. Number 3, we don't like talking about end of life preparations because we don't want family conflict. Now here's the deal. Sometimes when we have end of life discussions and, making decisions, it can cause some, to lead to some disagreements among family members. Now, that's important. That's why you want to have it while you're living. So that this is my arrangement. What we ain't going to do is fight over me while I'm here. This is what I want. I don't care what you think about it. This is what I want. And here is what I'm going to put down. I do not want to be resuscitated. I want you all to tell them when I go in, DNR. Do not resuscitate. We're not fussing and fighting over that. Now, y'all ain't got to speak to me for next week, until next week. Well, I'll be cooking next week. That's my plan. Come on to the house. Y'all going to get over it. But what we ain't going to do, see, we trying to avoid something. And that's the time we need to confront it. We need to confront those end of life decisions where the family might, have different opinions and different beliefs and, X, Y, Z. No, you ain't going to do this. My mom looked at us like, this is what I want. This is how I want it done. And that's what I want, period. Right? I was not only her son, but, I was her pastor. And she said, listen, I know you're going to be hard. You're going to be broke up. I know all of that. She said, but you my strong baby. And you done preached everybody else's service. You done all of this and sent them to glory. You better not get up there and act like you can't say nothing when I'm like, Mom. She's like, no, you better preach me. You better preach me like you done preached everybody else. And especially so because I'm your mama. I mean, y'all just have to, those of you who did not meet her, you missed a treat. Those of you who did know what I'm telling you is facts. It's facts. She was a feisty little woman. And say, but that's the best way to avoid that. That's the best way to maintain and establish family harmony and avoid conflict when that time comes. So you got to have that. I know you're fearing that, one sibling is not going to like the other sibling, but you're in charge of the conversation. Let me try it again. You are in charge of the conversation. You are in charge of a conversation. You don't want the conversation to be had when you can't have one. When you're not in charge of the conversation. It's real easy. It ain't hard. It is not hard, to understand the difference between them having a conversation with you and them having this conversation without you. Absolutely. Listen, here's another reason why we fear end of life conversation. We fear the loss of control. Because somebody might be trying to pull the plug early in our minds. That's not true. But somebody be like, listen, we fear that. And, because it could be, I'm giving up my control. I'm giving up my autonomy. I'm giving up my own life and my medical decision. I'm going to have what I want. No, that's why, again, Culture Call, that's why we have conversations. Family, black folks, that's why we have the conversation. People, maybe you're not black. You might be Caucasian or Hispanic. It does not matter. This is why we have it. Because you can spell out how you want things to go. And when I am no longer in control, here is who has XYZ. Here is who knows what to do. Here is who knows, here is what, and here is, it's spelled out right here. Yeah. My mom made sure all three of her sons had 3 levels of responsibility. I was responsible for the services in Alabama and South Carolina, making sure I was responsible for the programs and all that. Curtis was responsible for the business and making sure that we had all the insurance policies and numbers and everybody was contacted. Ty was responsible for overseeing the entire process. So me and Kurt was under, and he had to make sure all of that. My oldest brother, he was in charge of that. And we could move, and we didn't move until he said. See, she had already spelled all of that out. Every last one of us. So that when that time came, it was no surprise. We sat at my house and Ty said, okay, here's what we want done. Here's XYZ. Everybody knows what they have to do. And we did exactly what we had to do. And we brought it to a pool so everybody, all 3 of us knew what was going on. Yep. And moved from there. Absolutely. See, that's what happens. You take out all of the causticness. That's why we could help each other, embrace each other, love on each other through this hard and difficult process because she made it easier by having the conversation. When you refuse to have the conversation because you think somebody going to put you in Shady Pines, somebody going to backdoor you and, forge your signature, of course, how could that happen? When you think all of that, no, when you're lucid, when you are clear, when you have all your mental faculty and you know how to have discussions, spell it out now so you won't have to worry later. Let me say it again, Culture Call. Spell it out now so you won't have to worry about it later. Want to do that one more time. Spell it out clearly and plainly right now. So on that other end, when you are no longer part of a conversation and can be, that everybody knows what their role is, what you wanted, what your desires were, and we all can flow from there because it is written down. It is written down. And if anybody get crazy, we can always come back to what is written down. Now, there are instances when you can write it down and there is somebody who, family members figure out, but that's what no. It ain't what you want mama to have. It ain't what you want daddy to have. It's what they spelled out. And that's what we're going to do. If they say this is the limit on what kind of, casket I want, then this is the limit. I want her to be in a spread and I want to have a solid goal and XYZ. What you want don't matter. Write that down in your end of life. But right now, we are following these instructions. Yeah. Here's the deal. Number 5. Here's another fear, that comes up. Fear of the unknown. Yeah. The uncertainty surrounding death and dying can be so intimidated, discussing end of the life decisions sometimes makes people anxious and depressed about just talking about it. Cause I don't know. Nobody's ever come back to tell us, how it is over yonder. I know there's a heavy belief in ancestors and people coming back to talk to you. And I get all of that, but I'm talking about, they don't talk about, you didn't do that right. I wanted red flowers. You gave me blue flowers. They're not coming back and talking about that. And the reality is they're not. And 2, they can't. So, I get it. It's all this unknown stuff going on. And then here's another one. Fear of emotional distress. Talking about end of life decisions can stir up strong emotions such as sadness, fear, there he goes, and anxiety. And so what we do is avoid it. I don't want to talk about that. Let's talk about baking a cake. I don't want to talk about that. Right? Because it brings up so much. And again, I get it that day when my mom invited my wife and I over, she knew I wasn't ready at that time. She knew that I didn't want to have this conversation at that time. She knew it. She said, okay, so then you stay out here and I'm going to talk to her. I'm going to talk to your wife and you stay out here because you're not ready to have this conversation because I'm going to be talking and either you're going to be crying or you're going to be trying to check me and change everything I'm saying or keep asking me why are we talking about this. And she knew it and she was absolutely right because I would have been that one. Why are we talking about this? Maybe we just had a good dinner. Go cook, go bake a cake or do something. I don't want to talk about this. Right. So she knew, she knew how to navigate that. Absolutely. Right. So, yeah, but, it might be an emotional conversation. Number one, come here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Y'all ready? It should be an emotional conversation. It should be a conversation that does create angst, and it does create some level of, it should cause the room to exhale in a very deep way. And really what it should do, right? Really what it should do is this. It should bring some level of comfort, and it should give us the anticipation and the expectation to live our best life now, and don't put off for tomorrow what we can definitely do today to spend more time, quality time, to spend time, less time fighting and less time, majoring on the minors. Yeah, it should be just like that. It should be, we should be able to have that conversation and all right. Now, okay, let's plan a family vacation. Let's get all the pictures we want and all the videos and do selfies and videos and enjoy the good times so that when that time comes, you've got a pictorial and a video perspective of how you can remember her. One of the best things that we did is at the end, when my mom got older, she started writing books. I've got all her books and all of those things, and people still ask about. She wrote books about grief after my father passed. She wrote about her life with my dad. All this, she just wrote some excellent books, and then she has educational materials, and then I've got videos of her and all this kind of things, and that was so necessary. We've got a video of her giving my daughter, my sister's AKA paraphernalia when my daughter crossed over AKA, and we've got that on video. Again, you don't have to worry about, all of that. It is going to be emotional. It is. It is unavoidable. There is going to be a deluge of emotions. Absolutely. And if you do not, let me say this again. If you do not have that conversation, you rob yourself and your family of being able to move from that point to living your best life. And, a year before my mom passed away, one of the things that we did, my baby boy was graduating from FAMU. And I said, Mom, we're going to go to FAMU. So I've already made arrangements. And she said, no, I'm not going to go. I'm going to stay home. And I told my baby boy, he said, absolutely not. So he got on the phone. He got on the phone and he called his grandmama. He said, if my papa, he and his papa was great, my father, they were close. And he said, if you know how close me and papa was and he can't be here, so you better be here. And so she called me back, and I knew she was going to relent. She called me back and said, okay, I'm going. Because she never just really liked to go anywhere without my father when he passed away. So she says, I'm going. And so we took the trip to Tallahassee, and she was able to watch him walk across the stage and give him some of my father's things. And it was just such an emotional moment. It was such a great moment that, and we took pictures, got videos of her giving her speech and all of that. Those are the things that even when you have those conversations, I know it's going to be hard, but you can hold on to those moments. You can hold on to, do y'all hear me? You can hold on to those moments. And that can be some of the tissue that dries your eyes. That can be one of the elements when you see them laugh and see them smile and you hear them talking and all of that's right. But you still got to have these conversations. But these conversations can change the trajectory of how you relate to your family, that there can be a big embrace. It's a time for family reunions. It's a time for, not ignoring phone calls. It's a time for, looking and anticipating how you can see each other. Absolutely. It's that kind of time. One of the regrets we have is, hey, I didn't spend enough time. But no, once you have that conversation, then you can be purposeful and dutiful. You who are making the plans for yourself and the people who you're sharing it with can be dutiful about creating a life together whereby now we can have family time. We can spend the time living, enjoying it, so that when that time comes, and it will, when that time comes, yes, we will mourn, we will grieve, but we also have an aspect of reality that says, yes, but here is what, we can put all that, we've got all that planned, and now we can enjoy at least, the good times. We got pictures, we got videos, we've got paraphernalia, we got stuff. Yeah, we're not just going to be stuck with tears. That's why you have that conversation. Yeah, Culture Call, that's why we got to prepare. That's exactly why. Listen, this is a powerful conversation, and I'm praying that you're tuned in and you're jotting some things down and you're really thinking about what we are talking about. Listen, this is L. Spencer Smith right here on the Culture Call, Praise 93.3. We've got so much more to come. I need you to keep it right here. Don't miss it.
This is the world premiere.
And we are back. That's right here on the Culture Call. We are back. It's the top of the hour, 11 a.m., and we are having a wonderful, wonderful day. Yeah, how about you? Have you got your coffee? Have you got your breakfast already? Listen, you need to get on it. You need to make sure that you got it. Absolutely. And we are so glad and grateful for you to be here joining us right here on the Culture Call. We are having an amazing conversation today concerning end of life decisions. And I'm telling you, I know it has been, one that can be a little, I get it. I totally understand. But listen, we cannot ignore it. It is something that has to be done. Has to be done. Listen, before I get back into it, I just got a couple of community announcements for us. Listen, this week, it's my personal invitation to you to join me at the Stillman College campus at the Brown Memorial Presbyterian Church, as I'm going to be the weekly chapel speaker. Yeah, for their chapel experience. I'm going to be the weekly speaker for that, and it's going to be wonderful. October 5th at 11 a.m., I'm going to be there sharing with the students and the faculty of Stillman College and at the Brown Memorial Presbyterian Church, 3535 Stillman Boulevard. Dr. Joseph Scrivener is the dean, and I promise you, we are going to have a wonderful, wonderful time. I love Stillman College. They come right not too far behind FAMU. That's my love. Florida A&M University. That's my first love. But yes, I love Stillman College. Hail Stillman. I want to invite you to come hear the word of the Lord and what we have to say to encourage the entire campus of Stillman College. And not only that, I want you to mark your calendars. Wait a minute, back up. That's October 5th. That's right. This Thursday. That's October 5th. I don't want you to miss that. I want to see your face in the place. And not only that, this Saturday, October 28th from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m., we're talking about Boost Your Brand Pop-Up Shop, sponsored by Black Graphics, and Cece Cooper is the hostess. That's right. We want you to come out there on 2101 Bowers Park Drive, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and they are going to be there sharing with at least 12, 13 vendors so that you can, maybe you want to be a part of it. Go ahead and contact Cece again at 205-722-3770. That's 205-722-3770. CC Cooper. Go ahead. My friend DJ Tank Sinatra is going to be out there emceeing, providing some good music, all of that kind of stuff. You need to make sure that your face is in the place. That's the Boost Your Brand Pop-Up Shop, sponsored by Black Graphics, 2101 Bowers Park Drive, October 28th from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. I promise you, you do not want to miss it. And again, if you want me to go ahead and really talk about your show, not your show, but your event. There it is. You want me to talk about your event? No problem. I definitely can do that. And, make everybody know that, hey, go to this place and go to that place. Show them some love. Embrace them. Let them know that you heard about it on the Culture Call. And, encourage their hearts with your presence. I know that you can, Culture Call, because we are family. Absolutely. Listen. Back to our conversation. I know that it is a really provocative conversation because we have a lot of feelings and angst about death. We, and I get it. We in the Black community are I'm not saying that this is wrong. It's just reality. We are more concerned about making sure your soul is right. I pray we all be ready. I pray we all be ready. I pray we all be ready when he comes. I get that. And so we are really a soulish and eternal kind of people, a divine. We step into that spiritual place to make sure that that reality is secure. But we do not give the kind of time. We do not give the kind of thought. We do not give the kind of patience and preparation for what will happen to our mortal bodies once we leave here. And the process leading up to that point of transition. We don't really give that any kind of thought and, as a basic nature. But we need to. And one of the reasons why, because sometimes we think we don't have an inheritance. We think that we don't have anything to leave our families because, a lot of us are not big on life insurance. We're going to have a show talking about that real soon, the necessity of life insurance and how other cultures, build wealth, build family wealth utilizing life insurances, right? And the average African-American family has enough money to prepare a sizable life insurance policy. And when I say sizable, I'm talking about $100,000. Yeah, I'm talking about 50 and up, that we have sizable amount, not just burial insurance, right? But we have something to leave our families so that they will not start off or will not have to struggle after they pay the funeral expenses. That there are levels of insurance that you need to have and that you need to make sure that are in your file cabinet or in your possession. And there are amazing programs that can do that. But we have to make sure that we prepare it in that frame of mind and that frame of reference. And so if we don't prepare, then what's going to happen? Exactly. So we've got to prepare for all of that and make sure that, we've got everything, how it needs to be. And so having said that, when we think about those kind of things, and I hear you because somebody hit me up and said, hey, well, I know you're talking about it, but how do we prepare? Nobody really ever tells us how to prepare for that time. What do we need to make sure that we have in place? I hear horror stories. Mama didn't have any insurance. Daddy didn't have any insurance. So they had to put them on the freezer for about a month, and, that because they were trying to raise money to have a funeral, and that was going to be it. And some people had to raise a GoFundMe. And for me, that breaks my heart. That's one of the saddest things that that's one of the saddest things that I see, that people, hey, we just don't have the money. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And then they, depending on the church, they're depending on the community to send, mama off daddy off because they did not prepare. All of that. And that can be a very, very stressful existence. I get it. So what I want to do now is kind of shift. Let's vector off in another direction, because I want to give you some tools, some advice, some wisdom in how to prepare or how to plan end of life conversations, end of life discussions. How do we do that? Okay. So number one, bar your fears and all these other things. You first of all cannot be afraid to confront the necessary and the valuable, the important. You got to be able to muster up enough gumption to have the difficult conversations. And yes, they will be difficult. Nothing can damper a family get together like you saying y'all gather around and here's the discussion, and before we even get to that conversation, there's some things you got to do for yourself. That means they have online. You can search what they call, living wills. You can search end of life preparation, and they will send you a list of forms, and they give you a list of attorneys if necessary that you need to contact if your family doesn't already have one. They will make sure that you have all of that together so that, nothing catches you by surprise. Nothing catches you by surprise. Absolutely. Right. And so, you need to talk about number one, advanced directives. That's it. Number one, advanced directives. It's important to have legal documents in place that outline your wishes for medical treatment and end of life care. That's right. You need to have all that. That includes a living will, which specifies the medical treatments you do and or do not want, and a healthcare power of attorney. And a healthcare power of attorney, which designates someone to make medical decisions on your behalf if you are unable to do so. You've got to have that. That is a necessity. That's a necessity. You've got to have what they call advanced directives, and you got to spell it out. You got to spell it out. Here's what I want. Here's what I do not want. That's right. Here's who is in charge of making those decisions. And, that's going to be it. And once they make that decision, it's not going to be up for debate. No, I'm going to communicate to them what I want, and they're going to communicate at that time, and they're going to execute what I want, because we're going to have that conversation, right? Absolutely. Listen, you need to think about and choose a healthcare proxy, somebody who's in between. Select a trusted person to act as your healthcare agent. That person should be someone who understands your values and will advocate for your wishes if you are unable to do so. That's the person that shows up and talks and consults with the doctor and say, okay, here is what they wanted. Here is what is written. Here is what they said they wanted. It's right there. All of that. It's right there. And we're going to follow this. If we're going to follow this, unless that doctor says, hey, we've got some, new advancements, some new treatment. What we want to try. Do we have your permission? We know you have this, but we think that this can sustain their lives a little longer. Add that clause in there. Add that clause, because there are some people who are very dogmatic, and they'll be like, well, I hear what you're saying, doctor, but she said, he said, if X, Y, Z get to this point, boom, boom, boom. And so then the doctor's hands are tied, and they cannot try any new innovations, So you make sure you add that clause in there as well, and you designate somebody who is a good communicator, somebody who's not panic driven, you need somebody who is sober minded, who is very steady to be that person, right? You need to talk about palliative care or hospice. Understand what the available options for pain management and comfort care at the end of your life. Palliative care focuses on relieving symptoms and improving the quality of life, while hospice care provides support and comfort for individuals with a terminal illness. So you need to know the difference and spell it out. You need to spell it out. Do you want palliative care? Now in our community, we don't necessarily like, hospice and things of that nature, because of just how we are wired. We love to take care of our family, mama and daddy especially. We love to take care of them. We want them to, cross over or, leave this life at their own house, in their own room, at their own bed. And we'll just, all of that needs to be spelled out. I cannot stress to you how much that needs to be spelled out. It definitely does. Absolutely. Listen, you also need to talk about financial and legal considerations. You need to add people on your accounts. You need to add, I'm talking about bank accounts. You need to be talking about mortgage. You need all of these things. You need to talk about it all. Who's on the insurance? You need to spell out the beneficiaries, right? You need to say who gets what in the percentage, right? You need to figure out if it's going to be to individuals or is it going to be to a family estate trust. You need to figure out all of that, because at the end of life, insurance companies and people like that will not give anybody. I don't care if it's your favorite child. I don't care if it's your spouse. If they are not on these particular items, they will not talk to them. They will not communicate with them until they go get a probate lawyer to get letters of testamentary that attest that you are exactly who you say you are in terms of a beneficiary. Otherwise, they will not talk to you. I know what I'm talking about. They will not speak to you at all. And it's not that they're being rude. They're under legal obligation not to share valuable personal information with just any random person that says, well, I'm their oldest child. And they're going to be like, we understand. However, we cannot have this conversation with you because you are not listed as a benefactor, or beneficiary rather. You're not listed. You're not placed on the list. So you got to make sure all of that is spelled out. Yeah, you got to make sure who are they going to talk to? Who's going to be the one in charge? And you got to spell it all out. That's right. All your insurance policies, your bank accounts, and your property deeds. If you own any property, you've got to make sure that is on there. And I know, and I'm saying this because I know we do not think about it. We don't think about it. But I'm telling you, the state is thinking about it. The probate judge will be thinking about it. Absolutely. And probate attorneys to get those letters of testamentary, that can be a costly event. But it may have to be something that you have to get if they don't take care of it. It's something that you may have to get because, hey, these people are not going to talk to you. They are not going to talk. I cannot stress that. They will not talk to your children, and it does not matter. And they are right. They are absolutely right. Right? Good deal. Listen, also in those preparations, you need to talk about funeral and burial arrangements. Who do you want to handle your remains? Who do you want to, deal with those final services? And you need to spell that out. And now they have pre-burial arrangements, which literally means you can pay on it now. You can pay on your homegoing, your funeral services now, your mortuarial services now. By the time you get there, it'll be all paid for, and then the insurance will just go to your beneficiaries who you've listed. Because what normally happens is that they will use one insurance policy to pay for the funeral. And the children will sign that over to the funeral home, and the funeral home handles all the business, and the children will get the remaining check of what the services did not cost. But if you start prepaying for things, then guess what? Then that shifts the financial scale. So you need to make sure, you need to talk about whether you want burial or cremation, whether you want to go in the ground or whether you want to vote. Oh, Bishop, I don't want to hear this. I don't want to talk about this. Listen, you better hear me now. Absolutely. I get it, y'all. I promise you. And then, because you got to have all of this and you need to communicate it with your family members, right? Consider that. Because I tell you, it's a worrisome time. Now, my family was big on that. And, my mother, my father, my grandparents especially, they were big on pre-planning, prepaying, so that when that time came, we just had to schedule because they had paid for everything. They had paid for votes. They had paid for all of these different kinds of things. And so all we had to do was execute their wishes and ABC, and boom, And so you may need to consider that, but that's a conversation you need to have with your family so that everybody will know what the arrangements are going to be. Because I am telling you, as sure as my name is what it is, L. Spencer Smith, I promise you there will be somebody who thinks they know exactly what you would have wanted and create some level of angst. And listen, they will create some level of angst, and y'all, they'll be fighting over nothing. And you're like, man, what's going on here? Well, see, what's going on here is simply you didn't communicate all of your wishes. Absolutely. Here's another one. You got to prepare for emotional support. And I get it because it's a rough time, in the conversation when you get ready to talk to your family and all of that, when you're telling everybody, invite your pastor, invite a counselor over, invite someone who is specializing and making to deflate the anxiety out of the room, right? Get a religious advisor, a spiritual advisor. Have somebody who is a third party akin but connected to you and say, okay, and so that when all of this is over, we can pray or we can, do whatever we do and they can release it and okay, let's keep on living. Someone who can speak life over family even though we're making these end of life decisions. Because your beliefs, whether you know it or not, what they believe that you believed, will play into all of this end of life matters. Right. And so you definitely have to have at that moment emotional and spiritual support. This is why hospitals have chaplains. This is why hospital has chaplains. Absolutely. I knew things were interesting when the hospital sent the chaplain in. I said, okay. And at that time, my mom was lucid and she was like, but this is my pastor. He's my chaplain right now. And she said, when the lady's like, well, no, they sent me to XYZ. Okay, well, both of y'all can stay in. Right. Right. And then my mama, she puts me out and then she starts ministering to the chaplain. The chaplain, when I see her today, she still says, your mom ministered to me in her last hours and all those different kinds of things. But nonetheless, that's why they send the chaplain in, because they know it is such a very difficult time. It can be such a traumatic time in that entire process that the family is going to need emotional and spiritual support. Absolutely. Absolutely. And here's another thing. You have to review it and update it regularly. Review it and update when things change, when plans change, when you acquire more things and, when you want to, change companies or insurance companies or things, you need to make sure that you update it regularly. That's right. Because your preferences may change. Circumstances may, vector off in another direction. And so, at least annually, you need to look back at it and see if these are the arrangements that you still want. You could start off saying, I want to be cremated. And then later on, you look back at it and say, no, I don't want to do that. But guess what? When that change happens, you have to change it in the document. Yes, yes, yes. You have to change it in the document. Absolutely. Absolutely. And then here's the big one. Then you have to call family in and set up the conversation. Now, you could do it around a festive occasion. You can do it like my mom did. Call them over for Sunday dinner, or whatever. You can make it a big event, that's not so heavy, or you can make it with an intentional event and say, hey, I need y'all to come over. I just want to inform you on some things and get to the heart of the matter. But there has to be a conversation. There has to be a conversation while you can have a conversation. Rewind, press play, let's go forward. You have to have a conversation while you can still have what? A conversation. Nothing matters when you can't talk. Right? And so you have to do that. And be prepared. Be prepared to answer hard questions. Be prepared to take control of that situation. Let me say, because, you do not want that situation to get out of hand. Yeah, you want to make it clear that you are the one that's saying this is what you want. I want this. I want to be in hospice. I don't want to be XYZ. I don't want to put any burden on you guys for XYZ. I've taken care of this. Here is who is in charge of this. Here is what I do want. Here is what I don't want. Here's who I want on my program. Here is who I want my body to be taken to. All of these things. Here's the day that I might want it on, dependent and contingent upon the funeral home services. This is the day. We're not waiting for 15 cousins and all that. Here's the date. Here it is, and whatever. And, because sometimes we have people out for 3 and 4 weeks waiting on folks who can't get off their job. Guess what? We got virtual now. Guess what? We'll video it now. Because if you can't get there, what we're not going to do, we're not keeping daddy out for 2 and 3 weeks waiting for your job to approve your bereavement of time off. No, that's not what we're doing. That is not what we are doing. No, absolutely. We want to be fair because we all don't live on the same hill. We don't live on the same street. We don't live in the same state. Right? And so we do want to make preparations and give people time. But then there is a time that becomes ridiculous. There's a time that comes that folks even forget that this person has passed away because the time has been so long. Right? And we love to hold it. We love to hold it. And so, yes, all of those conversations need to happen. Yeah, all of those conversations need to happen. Go ahead and say, if you got a fur coat, who gets the fur coat? Who do you want to give that to? If you got precious jewelry and stones, who do you want to give that to? Yeah. Who do you want in your house? Do you want, what we call a wake and all these different kinds of setting up and all this kind of stuff? Where do you want that taking place? Absolutely. Make sure that the cemetery plot and all those have been communicated with, because they can be something else too. You hear me? They can be something. See, what are you doing, El? I'm trying to get you to think, to spell out exactly what you require and what you want your end of life desires to reflect. And again, I know it is a difficult conversation, but if you don't have it, Culture Call, you have no clue of how things can turn out. These things can break up a family. Talk, L. These things I'm talking about right now can break up a family because we do not handle them properly. Yeah. We do not handle them properly. So we need to do what we got to do and have, yes, the difficult conversation and say, all right, here's what I want. Here's what I don't want. Yeah. That's exactly what you got to do. And I know some people are like, phew, this is a heavy conversation. It should be. It should be. And there is nothing wrong with having a heavy conversation. Yeah. And don't think that you're too young. Let me say that again. Do not think that you're too young to have these kind of preparations put in place. Yeah. The moment you get family, or the moment that something goes on in your life and you need to start having this together. Don't leave a question mark right here, because I'm telling you, thousands and thousands of dollars of wealth are lost because our families do not have end of life preparation. I'm talking about thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars are gone down the drain or transferred to the state because we've not taken care of the appropriate probate issues and end of life issues. And then here it is. You think you're doing and working and leaving it to your family, but you have no documentation. And that thing has to turn on over to the state, or your family has to fight and litigate to get it back because you left no one in charge. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so I'm just saying it is something to think about. Right, Culture Call? It's something to think about. And it's something that I know that we probably don't want to think about. But if you think burdening them now with preparing and having a conversation now while you're still living is hard, then please let me tell you, you not having this conversation, you slipping off in your sleep or in some kind of situation happens where you are no more, what you leave here to deal with the finality of your business is going to be exceedingly difficult, way more difficult than having a prepared conversation. You feel me? I'm telling you, that's just exactly how it is going to be. And so you got to start thinking about it and start, getting ready. That old song says, yeah, I pray that we all be ready. And I'm not just talking about when Jesus comes. I'm talking about when the morgue, when the funeral home comes and takes care of the body, and I'm talking about when all this time leading up to it, listen, do it while you have the time and while you are in your clear and conscious mind. Well, I ain't got nothing, so I can't leave. So do I need something like this? If I don't have nothing to leave, you need it because you don't have anything to leave. You need to spell out everything. Absolutely. It's a part of the obligation of love that we have one for another. It's a part of the obligation we have for the people that we say that we love and care about. Absolutely. Listen, hit me up on the app or call me, 205-752-4800 if you got a question. Listen, we've got much more to come. I need you to keep it right here on the Culture Call.
This is a world premiere.
And we are back, Culture Call. I'm telling you, I'm so glad and grateful that you have joined me for this provocative conversation. Absolutely. Listen, and I get it. It's hard to talk about. End of life preparation is what we've been talking about this entire morning. And I'm thankful that you have hung out with me. I pray that we have given you some insights and some clarity on what you need to do in order to make sure that these conversations are productive and are helpful for you and your family. Listen, I see the runway, and so we've got a little bit more to go, but I want to make sure that, from this vantage point, that this whole idea of us having to be witnesses to this conversation, I know it's very difficult. And so for the final moments, I kind of want to talk to the families who have to have these hard conversations. One of the things that make end of life preparation difficult is how those who are left will react, will respond, what kind of emotional place it will put you in. And especially if you are a parent, you definitely don't want to be a burden on your children. And I get that because I'm one of those kinds of parents. I am grateful for all of my children, love them immensely. I love being a father. I love being a dad to some of the most awesome children on the face of the planet. And, I'm a pastor of the church, and I absolutely love my church and just people who love me. And above all, I love my wife. I'm grateful that God blessed me with her. And so, I'm always thinking about ways that I can protect them from hurt, harm, sadness, emotional vicissitudes. I don't want them to be depressed. I want them to be happy. Even if I'm not, I want them to be happy. I want them to have joy. If I had $1 billion, if I had $1 million, I would split it with my kids and say, go and do what is in your heart to do. That's just my wheelhouse. That's just the way I think, and it's based upon the kind of parents that I had, that they went to the nth degree to take care of us. That's what they did. And, I just say my wife and I, we always said, and even my brothers, we do, we work hard to make sure that our families have the very, very best. And so this end of life conversation, I'm talking specifically to those who may be beneficiaries or who may be called in to have this kind of conversation. I'm not just talking about those or to those who have to create these documents and create these particular things. No, I'm talking to those who have to be a part of a conversation. First of all, I understand. I know that it is difficult. I know that it is hard. I know that you don't want to see your parents and or your loved ones in that particular position. You don't. You don't. You just do not. And I get it. I've had to do it twice, and with both of my parents. So I know the level of thoughts and anxiety and the feelings of that. I know that. But, we have to make way and give space for the conversation to be had. Because End-of-life preparation is an extension of, watch this, their love for you. Yeah, end-of-life conversations as an extension of their great love for their children, for their spouse. That when we have these conversations and about the preparations and all of this, is me bringing you into, or them bringing you into an intimate space, in an intimate place where they understand some things. They've had to reckon some things. And I know that your dad is your Superman, and I know that your mom is your big mama. You know, I get all of that. I'm telling you. But there will come a time in life where, you know, one time the children will take care of the parents, but in the latter life, the children, you know, or the parents will take care of the children, and then in the latter life, the children will have to take care of the parents. And part of the act of taking care of the children, one of the greatest final acts, is preparing end-of-life situations. It is to listen, if they can do it in their own mindset, with their own love and with their own connection to you. It is their attempt to lessen the blow of losing them. That's their attempt. That they want to make sure that at the loss of life, when they transition, that they know that it's going to be emotional. They know that it's going to be hard. They know that it's going to be difficult. But what they have decided to do is to create a document or create a system or a structure that takes that final journey with you, especially when they cannot. That's what that document is. That's what the end-of-life preparation is. It is their attempt to one more time hold your hand. Yeah, on that journey of watching them slip from time to eternity to get their eternal rest, reward, or whatever frame of thinking that you come from, belief. And so, if you have that conversation, if they call you over to have that conversation, it is not about you, but it is about you. Let me say it again. It's not about you, but it is about you. Now that seems oxymoronic, but let me explain. It's not about you because it is not where you come to them, and while they're laying out their final, things, it's not for you to insert or assert your desires, because it ain't your life. And that was one of the things that I was taught. It's not your life. It's not. And so it's their attempt to say, hey, guess what? Let me hold your hand here. So in that realm, it's not about you. It's not about what you want and what you think they should do and how you think they should handle it. And you don't want to have the conversation and you stop. No, it's not about you. But then on the other hand, it is about you. It is them saying that if something ever happened to me, from the moment you came into this world, my obligation was to take care of you, was to make sure that I did my best to keep you protected and to keep you safe and to help you understand the difficult parts of life, to train you up, to give you the best information that I can, so that when I can no longer hold your hand, I'm going to put you in a place, I'm going to leave you in a place that is so much better than perhaps where I was left or where they were left. I want to put you in a place of some options. It may not be $1 million. It may not be, homes in Jamaica and Cabo. It may not be XYZ, billions of dollars of stocks and bonds. It may not be that. But this end of life will take some of the journey and make it a little bit smoother for you. So yes, it is about you. So I said, so that means, since I know that it's not about me, but it is about me, then the way that we handle the conversation, let me say it again, the ways that we handle the conversation and our reaction and our responses need to be thought about. That if you do, yes, indeed, get that phone call. If you do, yes, indeed, get that in that place to where, that you get a call and say, hey, come over, let's talk. Then you can already posture yourself. You can already bring yourself to a clarity, to an understanding that, okay, that I'm going to be here in total support. I'm going to appreciate the very fact that daddy loved me enough to tell me what was his final thoughts and wishes and what he desired. That he's equipping me to make wise decisions, even at one of the most difficult moments of my life. That mama loved me enough so that I won't have to second guess in this moment. She has prepared for me and prepared for my siblings to be able to not only take the questions out and send her away in style, but when it's all over, that we can fulfill her final wishes. And that ought to be, that response that we have should be to bring dignity to the conversation, to bring all the love and the appreciation. Even if you have to drive from that moment crying and tearing up. I get it. I promise you, I understand. But in that moment, it's not a moment of contention. It's a moment of clarity. It's a moment that, it is one of the final moments that parents will have with their children to express the full parameter of their hearts toward them. And in any place and in any season that they might need your assistance, your advice. If there's any place, remember, you heard it here on the Culture Call, that it's not about you. But it's about you. It's, Daddy, what would you want right here? What do you need me to do? Okay. Yeah. And they already know it's going to be hard. So you ain't got to say, well, that's going to be hard for me. No, they already know that. But I'm telling you, it is much more difficult when you don't know than when you do. It is much more difficult when you do not know what should take place. It is much more difficult when, it is much more difficult when you need to have a conversation, but you don't. And see, if you don't do it when you need to do it, let me say it again. If you don't do it when you need to do it, there can be so much regret. And I'm telling you right now, that's not what you want in your life. That's not how you want this thing to end. You want it to end with them knowing exactly how much you appreciate that they cared about you enough. Let me say it again. That they cared about you enough to make these final decisions. Your response to the situation matters. Your response. I'm talking to everyone on the Culture Call. Your response. My mom knew I wasn't ready for that response, but at those last days, those last couple of days, maybe 3 days, when she grabbed my hand and was just me and her, and she began to give me assignments and tell me what she wanted, all these different kinds of things. That was her last great moment of trust. That was her last great moment of looking at me and saying, I prepared you for this moment. She named me Leonard. Leonard. I use L, now everybody knows my name Leonard. But when she meant business, that's what she would always call me. She said, I've named you my lion because I know you are ready for this moment. And I remember that moment when she transitioned. My auntie called me. She said, and she would have never left if she was not sure that you, Ty, and Kurt would take care of each other. Absolutely. And so see it as an honor. I get it. I promise you, Culture Call, I understand. It's their last great act in ratification, in document form of saying, I love you. That's what it is. It's not to make you sad. It's not to give you some burdensome kind of situation. It's not to make you feel like, you know, they're getting ready to leave. No, it's not they're getting ready to leave. It's something to say, but if I do, when that time comes, I want you to be absolutely positively clear of how much I trust you, how much I love you, and how I want you. Watch this. This is the big one. Y'all ready? To keep on living. That's what this end of life document is. And we've got to see it for what it is. So those of you, before you become like me, who've lost both of their parents before, if they want to have this conversation, yeah. And those of you who have children, go ahead and start preparing. This is what we're talking about. We're talking about love today. I know it might be difficult to hear it, but this conversation is about loving each other until death does us part. Absolutely. Listen, this has been a wonderful conversation, a very necessary conversation. I know it has been, perhaps for some of you, a very difficult conversation. I get it. But we got to keep having these conversations so that we can be prepared and that we can be ready for what comes next. That we can definitely be in a place to where we are thinking and what we're thinking, because it is so very important. Listen, this is the Culture Call right here with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith, on Praise 93.3 FM. So much more to go, but listen, I see the landing plane. I'm putting down the gear, but don't you leave. Stay right there.
This is the world premiere.
What a marvelous day it has been. Yes. Culture Call. I'm telling you, I know we stretched today. I was in here on the break like, woo, this is a conversation. But guess what? It needed to be had. It is something that we really needed to talk about. And I get how difficult it can be. I understand that. I promise you, I know that from the bottom of my heart, the very hard reality and sometimes harsh reality that we face when we're having end-of-life conversations. So I definitely get it. I don't want you to ever think that I'm being purposely insensitive to the nuances of everything that we have to deal with when we have end-of-life conversations. Listen, you know, I'm at an age and a stage now where I believe and I know that this is a conversation that, you know, my wife and I, we're talking about what that looks like. You know, I have adult children, and, you know, if anything happens to us, I travel a lot. She travels a lot. And if anything happened to us, you know, what things need to be spelled out, A, B, C, and D. And a lot of times we travel together. So, you know, we always have to think about if anything happens while we're traveling together, what will be the fate of our children. And, you know, I don't want my kids just to think that I love them in life. I want them to know the love that I have for them even in my passing. And so you have to prepare these love letters. That's what I'm calling end of life preparation. You have to prepare these love letters. I know it's difficult preparing it. So I'm sure, I know it's difficult hearing it. But part of this assignment of living and loving is having the hard conversations that we have to secure and ratify our love. You know, men and women, husband and wife, when they stand before that altar, they take a vow. You know, riches for poor, sickness and health, until death separates us, until death do we part. So it is that inevitability that is the heightened sign of the love that we have, that how we treat each other even in our final moments, and those we love speaks greatly of what we come to know and understand. It's important that we look at it from the frame of reference that I do not want anything left to chance. I want those who I love to understand that they have my heart, they have my affection, they have the notion and the knowledge that I love them. And that's what that end of life preparation is all about. It is the final proclamation. It is the final resolution. It is what Paul would call, in essence, his valedictory speech. Talking to Timothy. I've finished my course. I've kept the faith. And so here's what I want. Here is what is going on. Here is what I'm protecting you from the state. Here's how I'm doing this. Here's how I'm doing that. So that the journey of my end will not be our family's end. That it can be a beginning of a new generation, of a new iteration of our family. But that can only happen when we make room for the conversation. If we don't do that, we are in a terrible, terrible situation. Yeah, definitely. And we've got to begin to reflect the ideas of other cultures. And right now, don't think about, I don't have this and I don't have that, I don't have this. Listen, if you listen to me, you still got time to get insurance. You still got time to put some things in place. Yeah, you still got time. But the most important thing is that you prepare today or sometime in the near future your final love document. You got to do it because you love, because you care, because it's the right thing to do. Absolutely. Listen, Culture Call family, I thank you all for hanging out with me today. Go ahead, subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts. The Culture Call, leave the article out, Culture Call, you'll find me there. You'll get this and other of our former broadcasts. But I want to thank you all for hanging out with me this morning. Listen, as my grandmama and my mama would always say at the end of every phone call, I love you a bushel. I love you a peck. And I love you a hug around the neck. Listen, this is yours truly, L. Spencer Smith, right here on the Culture Call. Praise 93.3 FM. Have a beautiful day. Come on, stay out of trouble, love each other closely, and be at peace. God bless.